Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Hello, My Name Is, a series here on the official OOTP Developments YouTube channel, where I get to interview some of the wonderful, awesome, talented affiliates that stream the game Out of the Park Baseball 27. Today, a fellow Canadian, first Canadian that I get to interview here on this series, and it is a guy from out east, but not too far east. Welcome into the interview, tehSuigi. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic, man. The wildfire smoke is cleared. The weather is fantastic. I got a softball doubleheader tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to just maxing the relaxing today.
That's wonderful. We're recording this on July 25th, just to give everyone a little context in case you're watching this a little bit later. Tell the viewers a little bit about the handle. I don't know if I've ever asked you this, how you came up with the handle, tehSuigi. Where did it come from, and why have you used it for so many years?
So this came from way back, like 20, 25 years ago. My username is older than some of our viewers. Let's put it that way. I used to run a web comic, a sprite comic back called Wario Comics, spelled with an X at the end. And in order to have a character in the comic, I created Suigi. And then when Suigi somehow became unavailable on certain forums and I believe DeviantArt, I went with tehSuigi, Te being a misspelling of the that was popular at the time, which was the style at the time. And that sort of stuck with me. You know, in katakana, I actually put on my Japanese league streams tehSuigi desu to actually make sure people pronounce it properly. So Suigi like Luigi, that's where the gimmick came from. And I kept that username all the way through, posting on the forums where I've started to do some light modding work. I did a Dynasty report back in Out of the Park 21. And then I kept it going into Twitch. It took me a while to finally start broadcasting on Twitch. I think it was Sergeant Mushroom and Yukari and Kazami who finally nudged me enough to get me over the hump and start.
And the great segue there, because you mentioned Japan, and I know that a lot of your streams involve international baseball and the Japanese Baseball League, and you're going back to Japan. tehSuigi has been to Japan 4 times now, going back for a 5th time. What keeps you wanting to go back, and maybe what are 1 or 2 of your favorite memories of visiting Japan?
It's funny, because we don't have the rights to the Japanese league, I'm actually rocking a Hanwha Eagles KBO jersey on camera right now, because I fell in love with one of the players, Ro Si-hwan, during my Hanwha Eagles broadcast in 2020, or in Out of the Park 25. What keeps me coming back to Japan are the people. I've gotten the chance to work with and meet so many interesting folks over there, and they are, as a society, so welcoming, so warm, and as long as you do like the cursory effort of learning a few words of the language, you'll be welcomed with open arms wherever you go. And that includes the ballpark. I went to all 12 Japanese baseball teams and stadiums over 17 days, all by train in 2019. In 2023, I got the chance to go back and bring my wife and younger sister along with to see the country and for them to get it. I've introduced other folks to the Japanese game. I wrote a travel guide about it. And this coming time, the plan is to go check out some of the less common sites with my wife. You know, we did the Golden Triangle of Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, but we didn't go further afield. Hiroshima is a gorgeous town that is very somber one day of the year, but the rest of the time is a fantastic cosmopolitan city. And the plan is to swing up to Hokkaido, to Kita Hiroshima, to check out the new ballpark up there, Escon Field Hokkaido, which is what Globe Life Field in Arlington should have been. It was the same architect. I think just the fighters had more money.
And again, speaking of Japanese baseball, many people in North America have never had the opportunity to see any kind of action from the Japanese Baseball League. What would you say are some of the biggest differences between watching a real life in-person Japanese game versus a North American game?
The big difference is the atmosphere. Not just the fact that the food's less expensive, the drinks are less expensive and served to you by people toting draft kegs on their backs, And you can bring in outside food and drink no matter which ballpark you go to. It is the crowd in the outfield. They call it the Oendan, the cheering section. So imagine like a football. You remember the World Cup, the football cheer atmosphere. You plant that in the outfield bleachers. The left field stands are for the visiting team, and they cheer in the top halves of every inning. And then the right field section is for the home team, and they cheer in the bottom halves of every section. And it's cheering for your players. You very rarely, almost never, jeer the other team. I tried that in my first NPB game and got told very quietly and politely, sit down, be quiet, we don't do that here. But the first team you're sitting in the outfield bleachers for, you are just clapping along all the way, and that's going to become your ride or die club. That's how you get infected. If you don't want to be a part of the cheering section, if you value the quality of your speech and your throat the following day, you can sit on the infield and just listen to the noise rolling in. The best baseball experience I've had wasn't even World Series Game 1 last year, which I was able to attend. That was the best here in North America. The best ever was a regular season game at Hanshin Koshien Stadium between the Hanshin Tigers and the Yomiuri Giants. This is like Red Sox Yankees. It's Maple Leafs Canadiens. It's old firm rivalry. And the Tigers walked it off in the 12th inning with a grand slam. I have never been part of a louder crowd. And even after the game was done, the cheer section's still out there going through everyone in the lineup's cheer songs, the team cheer song one more time, and it was just an incredible experience. And yeah, I lost my voice. How could you not?
Yeah, I would imagine that happens a lot. So the atmosphere is different. The rivalry is still there. It's a more friendly rivalry. And do they have like the tailgating before, after a game, or once the game's over, everyone quickly makes their way to the metro?
So it's funny you mentioned the Metro. NPB games stop after 12 innings. They call it a tie if the game's still drawn because they want you to be able to get home. Most of the metro and train systems stop at midnight, so they want to make sure everyone has a chance to go home. And two of the teams are owned by the railway companies that service their ballparks, so they have a double incentive to make sure you can get home safely. So there isn't that much tailgating in advance. I think you may have seen during the World Cup, some of the fans from Asia were experiencing this for the first time in the American soccer stadiums. So I feel like instead people will be going either straight from work or going to the izakaya, to the bar first, getting some stuff, and then coming to the game. And then if their team wins, they're sticking around afterwards to cheer, listen to the hero interview. So the player of the game gets a chance to do an interview on stage, on the field, right after the game's done. And I feel like that's the more appropriate, the more standard approach. I also point out that because Japan has such a more communitarian mindset, the fans will clean up the stands before they leave. They don't leave stuff for the ushers or the janitorial staff. They're going to bring all their trash with them.
I saw that in the World Cup as well as during the Japanese game. The Japanese fans were clearing the different rows of all the garbage and leaving everything, as it was when they walked in, which was just amazing. All right, let's go on to a little bit more about, the man behind tehSuigi. And a question that I ask all my guests is if you could sit down and have an hour conversation with anyone, past or present, not baseball related, who would it be with? And maybe what would be some of the topics of conversation?
Without blinking, without thinking, without second guessing, it's Jim Henson. His work with The Muppet Show, with Fraggle Rock, with Sesame Street influenced so much of my childhood, my sense of humor, my perspective on the world, including his principle of if he didn't know how to finish a sketch, someone was getting blown up or someone was getting eaten. Effective. So what we talk about would be his creative process, some of the ideas he never got a chance to see come to life. He passed away tragically in 1990 due to a viral infection, and just to get a sense, just to try and peer inside his mind, I know that part of the reason I hold him in such high regard is because he realized towards the end of his life that he didn't want to be running the business of Jim Henson. He wanted to be strictly creative. That's why he was trying to sell the Muppets to Disney back in the early 90s. That's why Muppet Vision 3D was in the Disney parks. The plan was eventually to make an entire Muppet land that just never got off the ground because, again, things got canceled when he passed away.
Yeah.
So the stuff on the cutting room floor is what intrigues me.
What an innovator in the entertainment industry. And as a kid, yeah, I watched a lot of those as well. And they'd have the live guests come in as well, and kind of like a co-host with the Muppets there. Did you have a favorite Muppet as a kid? Was Animal always stood out to me.
I believe it or not, this Grover plushie is only a year younger than I am. I've had him since I was a pisher. He is my favorite. He is the hardest working Muppet in show business because he is a superhero. He's a waiter. He's a door-to-door salesman, and he is always up for helping you no matter what you need.
No, that's amazing. I did not know you were a big Grover fan. Cool. All right, let's go on to a little bit about your OOTP and streaming career. You've streamed for probably close to about 5 years now on Twitch. You also upload your videos on YouTube. As a streamer, sometimes you get burnt out a little bit. Sometimes you don't want to turn on the mic. You're a little bit tired. What keeps you turning on the mic week after week after week playing out of the park baseball? And because it's Hall of Fame week this week in Major League Baseball, what would you consider your Hall of Fame streaming moment?
I would say what keeps me coming back is the drive to change history. That's something that I've been doing with the Rockies rebuild save, the Flying Purple baseball beaters, as well as the Saving Mike Trout save. Both of those were my Wednesday content, where I'm going back and saying, no, we need to fix this. We need to give people who never won a championship, give them a ring. And for Saving Mike Trout, the original plan was to do it for Mike Trout, mission accomplished. What I didn't plan on doing it for was Jim Thome as well in that season. I have a house rule in Out of the Park Baseball called the Bork Rule. And as a hockey fan, you understand who I'm talking about. Ray Bork, Boston Bruins defenseman who played for 2 decades, never got a Stanley Cup. In his last season, he's with the Colorado Avalanche, and he hoists the chalice. So my rule is whoever the oldest active player is who has not won a championship, I have to acquire them at the trade deadline if I'm in a playoff position. Jim Thome was the lucky beneficiary in the 2013 Anaheim Angels championship run for my franchise. If you want to talk about Hall of Fame content, I mentioned the Flying Purple baseball beaters. That franchise ran across 4 game versions and is home to my favorite moment in, I think it was the 2011 World Series, Rockies versus Yankees, Game 6. Marcus Thames ties it in the 9th. Shea Hillenbrand walks it off with a home run in the bottom of the 9th, and I get to do my full Tom Cheek impression. Touch 'em all, Shea! You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life. That was peak. How many people get to call a walk-off home run in the World Series, even in Out of the Park Baseball?
Verdin ready. High drive, deep to right field. The Rockies win it! The Colorado Rockies are World Series champions as Shea Hillenbrand hits a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 9th. Touch 'em all, Shea! You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Next up, you play OOTP, you love baseball, you love sports in general, I would imagine, but outside of sports, outside of the gaming component, what does tehSuigi like to do in his spare time?
I used to be big into cooking, but lately work has gotten so hectic that it's been hard for me to get into the kitchen. Otherwise, I'm always trying new recipes. I have a massive array of cookbooks that I keep trying to pluck from. In terms of activities, I'm on a softball league every Sunday. I'm learning how to pitch slow pitch for the first time, as opposed to my own team pitching to me. There is a learning curve there, and it's about 6 to 12 feet high. I also am an avid comic writer. I don't tend to do stuff under this alias, but if you're able to connect my face and my voice to other content I put on the internet, you'll be able to find it. I've run a Mario fan comic for the past decade. Like I mentioned, like I used to do sprite comics back when I was in high school. That urge has never left me, but that's very much the Oswald the Lucky Rabbit to what I'm doing now, which is my Mickey Mouse content, which is more refined, more all ages, and honestly, I think some of the best stuff I've written. And I mentioned the Japanese baseball travel guide, that too.
Wow. A lot of people just have one thing on their resume. You've got a lot of things that are cooking right now in your life. That's pretty cool. Back to OOTP. Whenever someone starts streaming, there's someone that guides them along. They have a mentor, a role model that helps encourage them. You've mentioned a couple already that help kind of get you going. I know one of the former affiliates of OOTP, Gorgo 2005, has been a big inspiration for you. You have his banner on your streams all the time. Maybe talk a little bit about the importance of Gorgo and maybe some other people that have really pushed you and influenced you to keep doing what you're doing.
And Yukarin Kazami is one of those people. Not only did she influence me to start streaming in the first place, but it was her suggestion that I have something unique, a niche that I would fill. And that's something that I think the affiliates crew does fantastic with, that we all have something unique that we bring to the table. And that's where the lineup intros come from. That was my inspiration to do that. I'm glad you brought up Gorgo yourself, because otherwise I would have named him directly. He was my lead-in for the Saturday streams. It was Gorgo at noon, tehSuigi at 2, and then AZ Axel at 4. That was the Saturday lineup for years. So when Gorgo, my internet grandpa, decided to hang up the headphones and call it a streaming career, of course I had to retire his number. It's been up at the top right corner of all my streams since. That's my little homage to him and his influence. Other streamers who I look up to and are interested in, EVC and NYC. I've been a member of the theme team crew since day one. I'm running 4 theme teams right now, one of which is players who have been on the Flying Purple baseball beaters. And of course, the theme that I keep running every single year, the Bob Cajun Bobs, players who are named Bob. We're showing a clip of my manager, my owner, my meddlesome Marty Oreno going over my head to extend Jim Thome for his H45 season. So EVC, Flying Fluffy Kitty Ninjas, Kamish LB, and the EMLB folks have been amazing just to see the depth of knowledge and experience and history in that online league. I have a community created player in there as well. One of the emigres from one of my Japanese saves, Enya Kimura. He's playing for the Guardians for Sadio right now. And trying to think, Dr. Dynastic with the voice, the polish. Because of the polish in his streams, I've had to step my game up. My lineup intros aren't PowerPoint anymore. I learned how to use Clipchamp now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's a good segue, because your introductions are, as you said, you're a kind of part of that niche, part of that, what makes you unique from all the other streamers out there. Maybe talk a little bit about your introduction lineups. And when we leave the video today, we're going to show one of your intros, and that'll be something cool for people to watch.
If you've tuned in early enough to my streams, and I always try to delay the lineup intro until the raid in from Dr. Dynastic or whomever else is streaming can come in. I always like to do a little bit of what it would be like to be in that ballpark. And so that's where the lineup intros come from. When it was in the Japanese leagues, whether it was with the Stampede, the Starlight, or the Chiba Pirates in the JPBO, my fictional Japanese league, I tried to do it in Japanese, but when we got to the Saturday Soren, the Hanwha Eagles in Korea, I don't know Korean and I don't want to try it. So I do try to bring that level of authenticity to it. Where there's real players and it's not fictional, I use real player photos. Where it's a different league, I try to mix in some different styles with the voiceover. You know, for the American League, it's Colorado Rockies, but for Japan, it's Ichiban, Secondo, Oscar Munoz. Different voices for that, and you can see the evolution and how I try to get more and more complex from those first few instances to what the Saving Mike Trout and the Saturday Sovereigns lineups look like, where there's additional visual effects, where it feels more put together and not just a PowerPoint slideshow that I'm talking over.
And I think that's maybe where your love of the Muppets, doing different voices for different, broadcasts kind of comes in.
I hadn't made that connection before. That's a good point, Laptop Hound.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been just an amazing experience talking to you and finding out a little bit more about the man behind the mic. If you want to catch tehSuigi, of course, he's got his Twitch channel, which I'll leave a link for. Also, he uploads a lot of his videos to his YouTube channel as well. I'll leave a link to that. It's not only Out of the Park baseball, but you see this game here, which has a very big fan base as well. Maybe talk a little bit about this other baseball game that you stream.
Sure. So that was Powerful Pro Baseball, or Power Pro. Dishnet34, your friend and mine, started doing broadcasts for them actually as for their esports edition, but I picked up he picked this version up for me. This is the NPB version of the game. And so, given I had streamed as the Oryx Buffaloes way back at Out of the Park 22, I naturally had to try my hand at this version of the game. Of course, there's still a language barrier, you can see. The next game I want to try, though, Pro Spirits 2026, came out last week and is in full English. So, for the first time since NPB was in Out of the Park, we have an English language NPB game, and I gotta give it a shot, man. Look for that on Twitch in due time.
Excellent. Yeah, the old MLB Nintendo Power Pros was such a fan favorite when it was out. And maybe leave off with what viewers can expect in the future, and a little bit about you told me before we started recording, a little bit about your broadcasting career with Japanese baseball.
Good. All right. You can find me on Twitch Wednesday evenings with my MLB saves. Before it was Flying Purple Baseball Beaters. Now it's Saving Mike Trout and Anaheim Angels Dynasty. I do have some custom uniforms planned for that. I will make sure to post those on the Out of the Park forums. Also on the Out of the Park forums, you'll be able to see my Japanese Fictional League mod, the JPBO, my Canadian Future League mod, the Canadian Baseball Confederation, and a bunch of other random things that I've been working on. It's been a fun extension of my Twitch presence to continue to develop my artistic skill set. And beyond Twitch, you'll be able to hear me on FTF Sports every so often as they broadcast Japanese baseball. Look for it on Roku channel, on Plex TV, or Fubo. What I will say, though, is my usual sign-off. Time is precious, and I'm grateful you've chosen to spend some of yours with me.
Thank you so much, tehSuigi.
Be well.
And there you have it. Hello, my name is tehSuigi. On the show today, we're going to end off with one of his unique introductions to his baseball streams. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Give what you can and take what you need. I'll see you next episode.
Rockies! Batting first, the third baseman, number 13, DJ Bichette. Batting second, the second baseman, number 10, Edson Garcia. Batting third, the right fielder, number 24, Domingo Santana. Batting fourth, the first baseman, number 23, Rhys Hoskins. Batting fifth, the left fielder, number 14, Grady Sizemore. Batting sixth,